Okay. We're in the sugya of Sanhedrin. We're doing the sugya of what of the Melech, the sugya of the king, and what a king's able to do. So one of the things that the pasuk, the Mishnah said is paritz like derech. He can go ahead and he can make a path through someone's field. Again, seems to be machlokes whether it's dafka b'shas milchama, can he make the path or not b'shas milchama, and we're up 4 lines to the bottom on chaf on the days. Tan Rabbanan. It also, and the Mishnah concluded, it said that when the Melech B'chola boys is in v'noisen loy, the people would go to war. They would get the spoils of water, and they would give to the king, and they would the king would get first dibs. So now the Gemara is explaining what do you mean the king gets first dibs? Tan Rabbanan. Oitzus malachim lemelech. So let's say they conquered another kingdom. So that king had a treasury. So the king of Kal Yisrael would go ahead and he would get that. In other words, he would get that. That doesn't go to the cheshbon of the people. That goes ahead and stays unique to what? That stays unique to the king. So Oitzis Malach Melech, Vishar Bizui Sheboizin, and all the rest of the spoils, that you divide halfway. So the oitzer of the other king goes to the king, and in addition, the rest of the spoils, the king gets half, and the rest of the people get half. I understand why the king gets the treasury of the king, why that lamelech urcha demilsa. In other words, what are you going to find there? You're going to find things that what king stuff, right? Yeah, what is a commoner going to do with king stuff? Where do you know that the king gets such a tremendous percentage? He's getting 50%, right? Where do you know that from? Interestingly enough, you know it from the following: the Yimshechu Hashem lenagid. Shlomo was anointed by Hashem as the king. Ulit Tzaddik, and Tzaddik, he was anointed as the Kohen Gadol. Now we go ahead and we make a hekesh between the nugget and the Kohen Gadol. Makish nugget tzaddik. We're making a hekesh between Shlomo, who's the melech, the tzaddik, who's the Kohen Gadol. Mat tzaddik mechzaloi mechzal. When it comes to the lechem aponim, there's 12 loaves. 6 would go to the Kohen Gadol if he so desired, and 6 would go to the rest of the people in the mishmar of the kahanim. Afnagid mechzaloi mechzal le'achiv. Good. So that through a hekesh. Just like the lechem aponim, the king gets the Kohen Gadol gets half. So too the nugget, the king gets half. Fred the Gemara, the tzaddik gufa minala. Where do you know by that the Kohen Gadol gets half of the lechem aponim? The Tanya Rabbi Yomer, it says v'choisel Aaron ulbana. When it says lechem aponim, it will be to Aaron and his sons. What does it mean Aaron and his sons? Mechzel Aaron, who was the Kohen Gadol, Mechzel Lebanav. And the male, so you know that body gets half. So therefore, he gets half of the spoils because of what? Because of the hekesh to the Kohen Gadol. Now the parsha in Shoftim, when same tasim alacha melech asher yifra Hashem alakecha boi mikerev achecha tasim alacha melech lo sucha losas lo ishnachri asher lo yachichahu. He's got to be pure bread. Rak lo yarba lo susim. The king should not go ahead and be mar besusim. He shouldn't have too many horses. V'lo yoshev esoam Mitzrayim. That the people should go back to Mitzrayim. It seems that I think the best horses came from Mitzrayim. So we know once you leave Mitzrayim, you're not supposed to go back. So in order to not go back to Mitzrayim, you shouldn't have too many horses. Rashi says he's going to have to send shluchim to Mitzrayim, and you shouldn't go to Mitzrayim. I think there's a steed, an Arabian horse. I think there's such a horse. There's supposed to be a chashuv horse. Not that I know. Basically Mr. Ed is as far as I go. Right? Leman Harbe Sus. So in other words, it's mamish. The pasuk says openly, "Don't go back to Mitzrayim." Why? So it's very interesting. The Torah usually does not give reason. It gives you a mitzvah. It doesn't give a reason. Here we have reasons. The king don't mabren horses because you should go back to Mitzrayim. Don't have too many wives because what? They're going to go ahead and turn you away. The kesef is over. Okay, So, and then the next is he has to write a Sefer Torah. We're going to do that tomorrow. The Sefer Torah we're going to do tomorrow. So it says the Mishnah, "Lo yarba nashim, ela shmoina esrei." How many nashim? He can have 18. 18, that's the max a king can have. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, mar behuloi, right? He can even have more than 18. Provided they don't go ahead and turn him away. So it seems the Tanakhama is of the opinion 18 max, no matter what. Rabbi Yehuda says you can have even more than 18, provided they don't do what the Torah tells you they're going to do. They're going to turn you away. Even one who is going to turn you away, you shouldn't go ahead and marry. Why does it say? Even if the women are so virtuous, Abigail, you should not be marba. So it's very, very interesting over here. We have Rabbi Yehuda who's learning time in the Kra, because the pasuk said what? And Rabbi Shimon seemingly is not learning time of the Kra, which is what? Which is usually the opposite of what happens. Usually the opposite of what happens. The Gemara, Lamemra says the Gemara, the Rabbi Yehuda Darish time of the Kra by saying that what? As long as they don't turn your heart away, you can take more than 18. Rabbi Shimon who says you can't like Darish time of the Kra. But we go through the opposite. The Tanya, Almana, Ben Shehi Aniya, and Almana, whether she is poor, Ben Shehi Ashir, whether she's rich. Okay, here's the background. If a person borrows money from you, you could take a mashkin. So you could take a mashkin, a nighttime mashkin during the day, and return it during the day, and then take the daytime at night. Now, what's going to happen if you have an almana who owes you money, and you're going to go back and forth, seeing you come and go? It may go ahead and be mitzi las on this almana that there's something going on that's not proper, it's not appropriate. Okay, so therefore, if she's wealthy, where you don't have to go ahead and return it to her, take the mashkin. But if she's poor, then not. Now this is time of the Kra, right? Because it doesn't mention this in the Torah. It just says you take a mashkin. So what does it say? An almana, ben she aniya, ben she ashira, whether she's poor or wealthy, aim mashkin. So you don't go ahead and take a mashkin. Shenemar le'sachbol beged almana. Dibber Rabbi Yehuda. So right, Rabbi Shimon Omer, ashira me mashkin. Ashira you could take. Right? Aniya aim mashkin. Right? V'ata chayav lahachsila. And by the poor one, you have to give it back. Okay, so you have Rabbi. We have Rabbi Yehuda saying either way, you don't take a mashkin, and Rabbi Shimon makes a chilik. By poor you don't take, but by rich you do. Varminan, my kamar, hachi kamar. Mitoich she'atam mashkin I saw. Since you give a mashkin, chayiv lahachsala, you can chayiv to give back to the poor person. And it's going to come out that a reputation will be will not be up to snuff as a result. So don't take the mashkin. So don't take the mashkin from the poor one, only from the rich one. Who said that? Rav Shimon. So you see, Rav Shimon is Darish time of the Kra, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says either way you go ahead and you take the mashkin. So you see, you don't learn time of the Kra. Rabbi Shimon Darish time of the Kra ba'alma. Rabbi Yehuda, okay, says you're right. The Gemara is going to give it teretz. He says you're right. The Gemara says you're right. Rabbi Shimon Darish time of the Kra ba'alma. Rabbi Yehuda loy Darish time of the Kra. So usually all over Rabbi Shimon does that darshan time of the Kra. Usually all over Rabbi Shimon darshan's time of the Kra. But over here not. What's the difference? But here and all over, b'shayni hacha, like Rabbi Yehuda, even though all over he doesn't darshan, over here he does. The mefarish time of the Kra, because the Torah says the reason. Matam lo yarba lo nashim. What's the reason that he should not have wives? As the Torah says, mishum lo yasel avavai. So Memela, since the Torah is stating it, Rabbi Yehuda darshans it. As I spoke out in the Hakdama. Since he's going ahead and the Torah is stating it openly, so Rabbi Yehuda says that's not time. You go ahead and go for it. Rabbi Shimon Amalacha Michti ba'almud dashin time of the Kra. All over we talk do dashin time of the Kra. So why over here you're not, guys? It seems to be counterintuitive. All over Rabbi Shimon says you do dashin time of the Kra, and over here by the king where it says don't be marba nashim because they'll turn him away, he doesn't dashin, right? It doesn't seem to make too much sense. It says ba'almud dashin time of the Kra im kain lichtav Kra layarba like nashim v'lishtaik. Now Rabbi Shimon, who does darshan time of the Kra, all you'd have to say, don't increase wives. Don't say anything more. What would you know? The reason is that shouldn't take his heart and turn it away because he always darshans time in the car. It doesn't have to be stated. So just say like lo yarba lo nashim v'yishtai, and be quiet. That's all you had to do. Lo yarba lo nashim and be quiet. Va'ano amina, and I would say matam lo yarba. What's the reason? Mishum lo yasser. Therefore, like Rav Shimon lo yasser lamali. Why is it necessary to say it? Why state the understated? Since I know that. Because I dash in time in the Krah, why are you stating it? Afilu achas. It was come to teach me that afilu one wife who may seriously boy harizal yaseni. You should go ahead and marry her. Okay. Elamani mekayim yarba. So l'chayra. And why do I? If he has one wife and it's not good, you shouldn't take her. Why do you mean lo yarba? That afilu kavigail. Even Avigail, you should not, even if she's so good, it's like Avigail, you should not go ahead and take more than that. So you have machloikas, whether you dash in time of the Krah, you don't dash in time of the Krah. Now, be aware that if you look at the Gemara literally, it says, well, the Torah says mitzvahs, and that's the way it is. One of the biggest complaints you heard in girls' chinuch over the years is they don't give answers. When a girl will ask a question, they won't give an answer. And it's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to look for reasons. You're supposed to look for reasons. There's no reason not to. The Torah, Hashem wants you to. At the end of the day, the reason you do the mitzvah, at the end of the day, the reason you do the mitzvah is because Hashem told you to do the mitzvah. But of course, you're supposed to look for reasons. The Rambam wrote Marin Avuchim, and you're supposed to. I think I remember correctly. It's a Maharal. It's a great Maharal. The famous Mishnah, Yehuda ben Tema. How do we start off? Have you Oz Kanemer, Rotz Katzvi, Giba Kari, Lasas Razim Vidash Shemayim, Kal Kanesha, right? So the easiest thing is Rotz Katzvi, run like a lion. Kal Kanesha, be quick like an eagle, right? Giba Kari, be strong like a reed. Oz Kanemer. What does Oz mean? So be bold, right? Be bold. But you start off with the one that's the most ambiguous. Be bold as a leopard. Now, the leopard is 135 pounds. A lion, a female lion, is between 175 and 250. If it's a male, it can be as much as 450. And if that lion is going to come and try to take away the prey of the leopard is going to go ahead, what? And protect it. So Uz means have the azus, have the chutzpah of the leopard. What's the hezbah? It's a beautiful hezbah. You're supposed to look for reasons. You're supposed to look for reasons. Now, let's say you don't find them. Let's say a person questions you. You're eating. You're Jewish. You can't. The garbage cans on Shabbos, you can't move them back. Like, what are you doing? What kind of religion is that? You can't turn off a light. You can't. People, they don't understand these things. So you know what? When the Yetzer Hara begins to tell you, guess what? I understand this mitzvah. You know what? Kibbud Av V'Eim is great. Pesach Seder is great. Shabbos is great as long as I don't have to go ahead and keep the lights or not use my phone. In other words, it's great when it fits into your lifestyle. And the answer is Havi Oz Kanemer. When the Yetzer Hara inside you and begins to play with you, you have to have the asas and say, I don't care. I'm doing it because Hashem wants me to do it. So of course, time of the Krah is important. Very, very important. Right? There's the Rambam always at the end of the last, in the Yad Chazaka, it's a halacha sefer. But you look at the end of the Simonim, you look at the end of, I think it's Me'ilah. If I remember, it's Me'ilah. Let me see. I think it is. Hang on a second. So the Rambam in Tamura tells us an unbelievable thing. The Rambam in Tamura, you see that you're supposed to look for Taimei mitzvahs. He even delves into the reasons for mitzvahs. He says, what's the reason, the reason for the mitzvah of Tamura is that a person may have a change of heart. He may feel like, I gave a fat animal away, and now he's going to change it. So you see that the Torah is very to the das of a person. The Rambam is giving you a reason by the mitzvah of Tamura. And the Rambam says, and the purpose of the mitzvah of Tamura is to correct his midas, to perfect him, that he should be a giving person and not turn back. And most of the Dinei Torah is like that. Most of the reasons for the mitzvahs of the Torah, the reason is to go ahead and correct our basic flaws that we have. Right? That's the reason. So again, as I spoke out, that the reason why the machloikas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, machloikas is whether La halacha, you look in time the kra. But everyone agrees that you should look what into the into the reasons behind mitzvahs. Everyone agrees that you should look into the reason behind mitzvahs. Okay. So we says the Gemara Vaita. We get into now David's mishpacha. 18. How do you know 18? How do you know 18? The chsiv. V'yivoldu leDavid banim bechevron. Vayihi b'chorei amnoin lachinoyam. Hayisraelis is one. Mishneu, his second child, is Kila of Abigail. Eshes Novel Carmeli is two. Vashlishi is Avshalom ben Macha, three. V'Ravi Adoniah ben Chagas. Vashish is Shvatya ben Avital. Vashish is Yisraem leEgla Eshes David. Egla Eshes David. She's called Eshes David. Elu Yoldu David b'Chevron. Become le Navi in Ma'at. Okay, now the background behind that is David goes ahead, and Nasan Navi gives him a very, very big zug for taking the only wife of Uriah when he has many wives. He has many wives. David says that in this mashal that he gave, that a reach comes along and he's going to go ahead and a reach comes along, and the rich man took the poor man's sheep, the only one he had. David said he should pay back 4 times because he stole it and he slaughtered it. And David pays back 4 times. He's going to pay back with the death of the baby that Bathsheba was pregnant with. He's going to pay back with the mice of Amnon and Tamar. Amnon is going to be Ma'anis Tamar, and he's going to kill as a result. And the 4th thing is what? Is Avshalom, the rebellion of Avshalom. So he says, that you had 2 little wives, so it says, I get it onto you like this and like this. So you had 6 in Chevron, and now you had on Kahena, Sheish, another 6, Ukahena, Sheish, another 6. The Havile Tame Sari, a total of 18. Maskal Ravina, Ema, Kahani, Tarti Sari. Let's say the Kahanim are 12. The Kahena, Tarti Sari. The Kahena is Esra Abba is 24. So let's say the total of 24. Tanya Nam Yachi, Layarba Nashim, Yosame Esra Rabba. In other words, once you had 6, now you had the first, the Kahena is 12, and the second Kahena is 12 times is 12 is 24. Says Gemara, you Enachinami. You have a Bryce that says 24. Maskar Avina, Emo Kahena, Tati Soyer, Kahena Esra Arba, Tanya Nam Yachi, Layarba Nashim, Yosa May Esra. The Mandarish Vav, according to Mandarish Vav, is Abayim Shmoina, 48. Havi Tanya Nam Yachi, Layarba Nashim, Yosa May Abayim Shmoina, 48. The Tana Didon, who says only 18. My timer. Amrav Kahena, Amarav Kahana. It's interesting. Amarav Kahana, Makash Kahena Basra Kahena Kama. Mak Kahena Kama is Sheish, Af Kahena Basra is Sheish. Fred Gemara having Michal. You look at the 6 wives, and it doesn't say Michal, it just says Egla. Amarav, Egla is Michal. Egla is Michal. V'lama Nikra Shema Egla. Why was she called Egla? Shechaviva love Ke'egla. As a matter of fact, the only one that says Ashes David by is Egla. Notice it says Egla was called Ashes David. Obviously she was very dear to him. V'cheinu Oimer Luli Charashna Meglasi. Shimshon says, unless that you were chayrish with my Egla, you see he called his wife Egla. Me having Michal Beni, did Michal have a son? Michal Bashal did not have a child till she died. She didn't have until she died, but the day she died, she did have. Michti banim hecha kachashalahu bechevron. Veilu ma'isa de Michal Yerushalayim have. The chsiv Michal Bashal nishkar bad chalon. She looked at the window. V'teres Amelech David mefazes u'mechakel l'fnei Hashem. She saw David dancing, took off his royal begodim, and he was dancing in front of the Aron. V'tivez, and as a result, she became nimas. Guys, we spoke at Shol was a tremendous tznua. So that was in her mishpacha tznius. The fact that David took off the big name Melucha and danced in front of it was very difficult for her. Anyway, V'amr Rav Yehuda, V'itei Rav Yosef, shekalta Michal lemit parsa. She went ahead and lemit tarfsara, that she was punished being barren. So what do you have to say? She didn't have, in other words, the first shot was she didn't have children until she died. But the day she died, she did have children. But it doesn't make any sense because we counted the child in Chevron. She died in Yerushalayim. So therefore, what does it mean? Before this Maisa, she did have children. And only after this Maisa, she didn't have any children. I heard this, didn't speak out the first time around. I heard from Rev Reisman years ago that we see that the Aron was placed in the house of Oved Edom Agisi. the Maisa was David brings the Aron down, and Uzzah touches the Aron, and he dies, and it just wasn't the right time, and things went bad. They brought it to the house of Oved Edom Akisi, and Oved Edom was blessed with children, and his daughter-in-law was blessed with children. So we see that the blessing of the Aron given proper cover to his children. Michal, who wanted to go ahead and diminish the covenant of the Aron by not having David Des in front of it, she was punished by not having children. So there's a Mida Keneged Mida over here. It says, you said it at 18 wives. It says, Vayikach David oit Palakshem v'nashim b'Yushalayim. Gemara answers, Lamili Shmeina Asa. That completes the Shmeina Asa. My Nashim, my Palakshem. What's the difference? Rav Yudah Marav, Nashim b'Ksuba, u'b'Kedushin, Palakshem b'loy Ksuba, b'loy Kedushin. Rav Yudah Marav. Arba Meis Yoladim Hayil David. David had 400 sons. The Kulam b'nei Yifas Toya Hayu. They were all the children of Yifas Toya. U'megadlei Blurius Hayu. And they had Blurius, they had this like Mongol type of haircut, very scary. The Kulan Yoshim B'Krone Shalzov. They all sat in chariots of gold. U'mahalchim B'Rashi Gaisus. They went in the front of the army. The Hema Yabali Agroifim Shal Beis David. They were the scary warriors of Malchus Beis David. Again, it's mashma that David had 400 Yifas Toya. That's not what the Gemara says. That's what the Gemara does say. But if you look in the Gemara in Kedushin, the same Gemara, Rashi says, Yolodim, Dibra Maskal Yolodim, I quote, Bachurim. They were young men, Hayu, with David, B'chayiloisav in his army, V'loi Hayu Bonav, but they were not David's children. They were Bachurim in his army, but they weren't his children. From Yehuda Amarav, Tama Bas Yifas Toya Haisa. Tama was a Bas Yifas Toya. Shnema, V'ata Daber Noel HaMelech, Ki lo yimeni mimcha, he won't call me back from you. Okay. If she was a daughter of a regular marriage, would a sister be permitted to a brother? Shmamina bas yifas toya. Shmamina that she was a bas yifas toya. So we spoke at Rashi. The Tosfos over here says that there's a machlokes in Rashi and Tosfos by yifas toya. Who in battle? Yifas toya, the first bia. Rashi says the first bia is after the Maisa. After she goes home, she goes ahead and she misnavel herself, and then she's Megaya. So Frek Tosfos Akasha, if that's the case, then how is he permitted to Amnon? If she's born after Geras, then it's a full-fledged son of David, and so it's a half sibling to Amnon. So how could Tamar marry Amnon? So Tosfos says it's a raya that the bia took place first in the battle. She was pregnant from that bia, and therefore she was a Geiris, and therefore she could marry Gershon, Skycut, Shanol, she can marry a Tamar. However, there's a Yerushalmi that says that you can't go ahead and the bia takes place afterwards. So Rashi's based upon that Yerushalmi. So Tosfos points out, Al Kainira Lemema the Tamar Lehoisa Bas David. She wasn't the daughter of David. She'ima Kvar Hoisa Muberes Kishabal Muhammad. My mother was pregnant when he came to Muhammad. He came to Muhammad, she was very pregnant with her, and therefore wasn't David's child at all. Therefore, she would be permitted to marry Amnon. Now, the Maisa of Amnon, again, is said one of the 4 punishments. Amnon is sick, and he's so sick, he has this tremendous physical desire to be with Tamar, and it's not happening, and he's sick, and he has a cousin who's not such a nice guy. And here's the story of Amnon and Tamar. Amnon Reya Ushmaya Nadav ben Shima Achi David, and Amnon had his friend whose name was Nadav ben Shima, and he was David's nephew, and he happened to be the cousin of Amnon. So Rav Yehuda Amarav, Ish Chacham, when he says the Chacham, it's Larisha, so bad news. He says, Yonav says to Amnon, why are you looking so down and sick? And he tells him the reason. So Yonadav, using his Chacham, says, Yonadav, lie down in your bed. This will make believe you're sick. She'll come to you, and she'll come, and she's gonna. I think. Let me see what's going on. So he's going to say to him, lie down on your bed. You may believe you're sick. Your father will come visit you. She should bring me some food. Some type of food. And I should eat from her. So again, this is before anything, as we're going to see, there wasn't any reason not to. And therefore, what happened was, Vatikach hamasrek vatisek lefonav. Amar Yehuda Amar Av Shasli Mine Tigan. She made some type of fried food. I think I once saw that. That was the chachma of Yenada, that he knew that she could make this food. Like, what's the big chachma? The big chachma is he knew that she could make this food. And he's ma'anasa, and then it says Vayisnei Amlein Sinna Gedoyla Ma'oid. He hated her more than he loved her. Before my time, Rabbi Yitzchak Nima Nikshra Loi. A Nima was Ba'isei Makom Vasasu Krushavcha. It made him into a Krushavcha. Right? It made him into a Krushavcha. If it just happened, Memela, then how could she be blamed? Elema Kashloi Nima. She did it. Vasasu Krushavcha. Is it really so that she had Seir Bois the Makam? But Dorish Rava Maidach Siv Vayetze Lechashem Bagoyim B'Yafief. The Jewish girls will have Shem B'Yafief. Shem Lam V'Nois Yisrael Shem Esashechi. No hair on their armpits. Lay Beis Erev not Noisling Makam. This is before the Churban Bias when they would snooze. Shani Tama the Basifas Toya Having. She wasn't initially. She didn't have that physical biological component. But Tikach Tama Afra Waisha. She was going to announce what happened to her. Sinus Pasam Shallah. She put Ephor on her head. And she ripped her clothes, she ripped her special sinus pasim that David had given her. In that time, she made a tremendous geder. If this could happen to a princess, certainly it could happen to a regular girl, a commoner. In the Tznuis, if it could happen to a Tznu like Tamar, the Prutzas Lachas Kama, certainly to a Prutzas. Rabbi Yehuda Rav, in those times they were geyser on yichud on pnuya. Mashma two different things. So Fred the Gemara yichud, but the geyser on yichud is deraisahi. Then Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Mishum ben Yotzadik. Them is the yichud min haTorah min ayin shnemar ki yisischa achicha ben imecha. If your maternal brother goes ahead and incites you to do avodah zarah, he ben aim meisis ben av enemies is a paternal brother can't. Ben misyachedim imay, ben can misyached with his mother. Ben achim misyachedim kol arayos shebatayr. So the yichud with an erf is awesome. El ema, don't read it as two separate things, but ema gozu al yichud de penuya. They would gozu on yichud penuya. That's what happened as a result of Tamar. Now we mentioned previously that one of the children of David was Adoniah. It says Adoniah ben Chagis misnasei lemor. Ani am like, I'll go ahead. I'll reign. After David dies, I'll reign. He wanted to go ahead and put on the crown. Let's see Rashi over here. And it didn't fit. It was a bar of gold going from one end of the crown to the other. It did not sit on the head. Someone only had like a divot in his head. The he Adis the Beis David. This is Adis the Beis David. Anyone who's away from Malchus would fit. It wouldn't fit. So he spoke out that this Indian of there were kings from many Shvatim. There were kings from Binyamin. There were kings from Malachei Yisrael. But Lo Yasa Sheva in Yehuda. Kings had to be from Yehuda. By Yehuda, there was a special Malchus called Malchus Beis David. And Malchus Beis David was synonymous. It was a special sign that you were chosen by the fact that you had a chritz going through your head, and this crown fit in that chritz. Now, what is another thing it says about Adoniah? It says that Vayasle Rechav Uprashim Chamishim Mishratz Lefonav. He had a chariot and infantry, and the 50 men running in front of him. My Revusa, what's the chiddush? Anyone could do that. Rabbi Yehuda, these just weren't any men. Amarav Kulan the Tule Tchol, all of their spleens removed. The Chakuki Kapes Raglaim Chayu. And they had some type of operation on their feet to take away the nerve endings, that they were able to run on glass and on thorns and no problem. And they were very fast as a result. So the Torah said, Lo Yarbaloi, says the Mishnah, Lo Yarbaloi Susim, Elikadei Merkavtai. You can only have the amount of Susim for what is his chariot. Because of Azov Lo Yarbaloi Ma'oid, Elikadei Litain Aspanya. In order to go ahead and provide for his army. The annual pay for the army. Because let's say for Torah Lishmoi, Yotzal Malacha, might see a Ima, Nifnes hu Machnasima, Yoshev Bedin hu Imai. Meisiv, he goes down to lie, it's connected all the time. Shnemar, V'hoisa Imai, it's with him, the Karabai Kol Yemei Chayav. Okay, so we're going to now darshan the Susim and the money. Tan Rabbanan, La Yarba Loi Susim, Yachal Afil Ketei Merkaftoi, I might Uprashav, I might think what? that he can't even have a lot of horses for his military needs. Talmud Leimar, loy. Loy ain't a marba. For his personal needs, he can't be marba. Al marba who could they ruchway partial, but he could be marba for military needs. Hamani Mekayim Susim, then why don't Mekayim the word Susim? Susim habatlanim. That means Susim or batlanim that he can't have. That they're not for military needs, he can't have. Minay shafilu sus, even one sus, he's over on the Yisrael, Vubatal Shubole Arba. Tamaloi Milaman Harbe sus, the pasuk continues and uses the singular. So if you're over on one sus, why do you say susim? It says susim to tell you you're over on each and every one. Each you have extra you're over on. The reason why you know that militarily you can have many because it says loy. A lav hochi, but didn't say loy. Have amina loy. In other words, if it didn't say loy for the military, you can have. It doesn't make any sense. Of course you could. It means the military you could go ahead and increase. You can have a lot. Because of Zola Yarbaloy, Elikade Lite Naspanya, Tan Rabbanan, the case of Zola Yarbaloy, Yachla Filakade Lite Naspanya, Tabalay Maloy, Loy, but for personal gain, Avamabahu Kade Lite Naspanya. Time with the customer loy, lav hochi, have a mina, feel like they in Espanya. How's that possible? Of course, you need money for the military. Like tzrichel harvacha, you can have a lot of money for the military. Spend a lot of money. In other words, now you know that loy by susim was a drasha, and loy by what by kesev is always a drasha. It says, "Well, yarbalay noshim." What is the loy there? It says the Gemara lemute hedyot. This a hedyot can have what? Can have more than 18 lives. Rabbi Yehuda Rami. Ksiv ahi l'shlomo arboyim elef aruvos susim merkaftoi 40,000 stables or stalls. Ksiv ahi l'shlomo arba elef only arba elef 4,000 uros susim. Okay, side im arboyim elef it's taboyos hayu. If they had 40,000 stables, hayu kolech vechad hayu boy dalar alachim arbas. If you had 40,000 stables, then each one had 4,000 stalls. That's a lot of horses. If he had 4,000 stables, each one of the 4,000 had 40,000 stalls. Okay. Because they were so wealthy. It was like stones, meaning they didn't have anything. Like Kasha, when before he married Bas Paro, they were worth nothing. Then they were worthless, like a stone. Gavriel went ahead, he took a kone, stuck it in the sea. The hella sirtoin, the love nivla krach gadol shebaraymi. I think the Rasha speaks out, they put it in the ground, and over time the Avodah Zarah began. Again, Bas Paro was the beginning of it. Sirton began to around it until finally Rome and ultimately the destruction. From Yitzchak, Niskalu Taimei Torah, Shtei Mikrois Niskalu Taimei two psukim are revealed in the Torah, and Nichshal Behem, and they were Nichshal. Nichshal and God Loilam, great person. Shlomo was Nichshal. Ksiv Vayarbale Nashim Amar Shlomo. And the Arba, I will. I'll be Marbasus, and I won't be led astray. Ksiv Ayihila Ace Zikna Shlomo Nashav Hitu Eslavavai. Now again, it's mashma that you have to know the context of this Ayin Shabbos. Nunvav Kolay Mishlema Chayte and Elataya. Layarbale Susan Vameshlema and Yarbe. I'll go, and I won't go back to Mitzrayim. Ksiva Tese Mekavim Mitzrayim. B'Sheish, you see, in fact, Awat, he went back to Mitzrayim. Thank you, Rabbi Avi, Yehuda, and Dov.